We'll go straight to question.
Coach, I know it's something we've talked about a little bit, but with the performance at the rim against Memphis, what's kind of the focus? How do you rectify that before conference play?
We got to the rim 51% of the time on the road against Sweet 16, Elite 8 type team. We shot 28 balls at the rim, and we made 43% of them. So we're getting there. We just have to find ways to finish. Not all of them are the layups that me and you would shoot at the YMCA, but some of them are. So we've been practicing it in different ways over the last 3 weeks with some improvement. But I honestly think, Travis, you just have to continue to practice it and maybe find ways to practice it more and in different ways. We're top 5 in the country at getting to the rim, but we're poor at finishing. And so I don't want to tell them not to get to the rim. And it speaks to we're doing a lot of good things to get to that point. But today we're going to do it a little different. We're going to do it in the middle of practice, like when everybody is in full sweat, and we're going to divide them up and do the same thing we've been doing it, just at a different time with maybe a few different types of finishes.
Do you feel like, as far as the tangible basketball skills on the court, that was the difference in maybe winning and losing at Memphis?
I think there's a lot of numbers that we can speak to, and sometimes I think I get carried away with the numbers just because that's how elementary my brain thinks. But I thought there was, even if you're not into numbers and even if you weren't at the game, I think the spirit in which we competed in the second half was dramatically different than the first half. And as much as we need to finish at the rim, and as much as we don't want to turn the ball over at a high rate, and all of the numerical things that we could say, I thought the connectedness and the fight and the grit and all of the words that coaches use, whatever your favorite adjective is, I thought it was distinctly different in the second half than the first half. We scored 79 points on the road. We did a lot of good things. We shot 80% from the free throw line. We shot a bunch of them. We defensive rebounded 79% of our balls. Like, we did a lot of good things. But a lot of those good things were really in the second half. If it's a loose ball, a 50-50 ball, like you don't know who's going to get it, they won all of them in the first half. And we won all but 2 in the second half. Well, Buzz, needs to figure out who can help us play harder, longer, from start to finish, regardless of the name of the person that's playing. And so I think that's probably the prevailing thought, even though numbers-wise there was a lot of good things and some things that we have to get better. You can't shoot 43% at the rim. I mean, we've played 3 teams that have shot better than 43% from the three-point line. So we need to be able to get stops. All that being said, in our 4 losses, the teams have been very effective from the field. Their effective field goal percent has been 60. We played 40 games last year, and that happened to us 4 times. We've played 10 games this year, and it's happened to us 4 times. So I don't know that it's tactical, because I think we've made some tactical changes. We changed the itinerary of practice to address some of those things. I think this may be something that's not in the stat sheet that we need to practice and work on, and I need to do a better job in that standard at which we have to function.
Are you suggesting it's just a matter of playing more intensely? Is it understanding some kind of intangible quality that you're looking for?
Maybe it's too much information. That could be right. Maybe too much information on that leads to confusion. I think if there's too much information, you have slow feet. We don't need to have slow feet. And so maybe I've done a poor job in regards to the information that they have. But I do think that if that was the case, then in the second half we understood the information because the information was the same. And so I think it's a reflection of me in regards to what is it that is required of me as a player to be effective in what we want to do. And I think the intensity probably is more of that than the information. That's not to justify the loss or to take pressure off of me. I think I would describe it more as intensity and tenacity and connectedness and spirit and fight and grit and all those words.
So what was different in the second half? Was it just
We did those things. Because if you look at some of the numbers he's talking about, like some of those numbers were worse. We turned the ball over 11 times in the second half and won in the second half, and we were fouling in the end trying to extend the game. We only had 6 turnovers in the first half, and we were down 9. We had 12 offensive rebounds in the first half, 12. We had 12 offensive rebounds in the second half, and we still turned it over 11 times. We only had 3 offensive rebounds in the first half, and we only turned it over 6 times. And percentage-wise, we made the same amount, so to say. So we beat them on the glass by 11. We had we had twice as many offensive rebounds in the second half than they did offensive and defensive rebounds combined in the second half. So how is the best way to say that? Maybe it's because of how I was raised. To me, that is night and day in regards to effort.
So what's the key? How do you get those guys to show that kind of effort in the first half?
Yeah. That's what we got to figure out. We beat Oregon State by 22 in the second half. That's pretty good. I think we were down 3 at half in the first half. We were down 9, I think, in the first half at Memphis. So then we won by 5 in the second half at Memphis, right? And we were fouling the last 2-ish minutes, giving them points at the free throw line in hopes to extend the game. So I think there's different ways that you can skew numbers. And I think that it's sometimes hard to give a number to effort and or intensity and so it's more a subjective thing, right, instead of objective. And so I'm encouraged in a lot of ways because in some ways I think that that's what our teams have always done, is we found a way to play really hard and play together regardless of the names on the team. And so I'm encouraged that we're doing a lot of good things, and we also have identified the things that we have to improve at. But I would say that first on the list is we need to play really, really hard as priority 1A for 200 minutes. And I think some of the numbers would probably handle themselves.
You talk about trying to find those guys who will play
Yeah.
for the whole time. How much of that is apparent in Andre starting the last 3 games and kind of his evolution from where the kind of role you had him in when he first got here to that?
Well, I told the kid that, well, he's not a kid. I would assume he's my age, but he played at Penn State, and then transferred to UCLA, had his large intestines taken out. What's the guy's name?
Crispin,
What's his name?
John Crispin.
Yeah, he asked me that before the game, and like, to me, we as in everybody, we know what Dre is going to give us. He's going to play really hard. He's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do when he's supposed to do it. He is for us. He cares who wins and who loses, and he might make a shot. But, like, if you look at his numbers, you wouldn't suggest he should play a lot. But if you look at the things that don't have numbers on the box score, like he had a plus minus against Memphis and was a 0 across the board. That's because he takes up space when he's supposed to. I think he had 2 assists. He doesn't turn it over. Like, now we still have to score. We have to find ways to score. And in some ways, I think Dex played really well against Oregon State, but Dex has a lot of those same qualities. Impacts the game, not necessarily all the time in the stat sheet. Dex has 0 rebounds in the first half at Memphis, has 4 rebounds in the second half. Boots has 3 rebounds in the first half. Boots has 7 rebounds in the second half. We play Henry and Jew together for the first time since Boise. And they put pressure on the rim. So, yeah, I think Dre is an example of that in the 15-ish minutes out of 200 that he's playing. And now we need to find the other 185 because I think Dre will probably give you what Dre gives you.
To that end, is that when you talk about being for the team, is that evident in the fact that probably obvious that he wasn't probably going to get the amount of playing time that he was, but he didn't transfer portal like so many kids?
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that. I know as a coach you're probably not supposed to talk about it, but within all of this volatility, as I have been saying, like you still have to have practice and you still have to play the games and not being condescending. You probably are going to call a timeout and you got to talk to them. And then at halftime, you probably need to go in a room and somebody needs to say something. And that's why I've always said to you guys, and I still feel the same, like the character piece in this is critical because it's a brand new game, so to say. And I'm not complaining about the game. I'm actually trying to figure out how I can be a part of it. But the character of the people, like, not supposed to say it, like there are coaches that are in the transfer portal too that are attached to players. And so, like when you sit in this chair, you're like, hey man, is he for us? And you're not thinking about that just within the players. You're thinking about that for everybody, And like, that's why I've always, I mean, I write it in my journal 3 or 4 times a week. I want to make sure that the words that I say give credit to the people that are involved. And the character of our players is phenomenal. That's not saying that they won't make mistakes. And the character of our staff is phenomenal. And so now you at least have a foundation, in my opinion. Hey, everybody grabbed a rope and let's all pull that way. But we need everybody to pull that away. And if for whatever reason that particular day or that game or that possession or that minute you weren't pulling, we still love you. Everybody else, grab a little harder maybe, and let's keep pulling. Because we don't have time for multiple guys to let go of the rope and then, hey, where is he? But I don't think that that's just the players. I think it's part of any organization. And I'm not complaining about any of it. Like I've really spent a lot of time trying to think and learn and listen and pay attention. And how do you, because the model has changed, let's get to the future first on how do we get everybody going that way.
Is it a challenge to, with this Wofford coming up, I guess, play with
same tenacity given, you compare the way Memphis likes to play, you talked about it, really they kind of try to get you into sort of a high intensity game. I wonder with a different opponent if it's sort of natural when you're in that environment to kind of build up and ratchet up that intensity versus a team that maybe isn't trying to speed you up as much.
Memphis wants to play fast. I think Memphis shot 79 balls at Alabama last week, and Wofford is 318th in regards to pace of play. But you know what? Their numbers are a paradox. They are slow, but they're 15th in the country at the rim, which is like way better than Memphis, dramatically better than Texas A&M. So they're very, very, very effective and efficient. They lose at LSU in the last minute of the game by 3. They lose at Vanderbilt in the last 30 seconds by 3. We will be just as stressed in a different way versus Wofford than we were at Memphis. And then to that point, not to overindulge, but to that point, I think regardless of the style of play and the locale of the game, we need to have the same level of intensity, as Olin says, regardless of who we're playing. And sometimes I think intensity, even though it doesn't have a number, sometimes intensity can cover up a mistake. And Wofford will make you pay for mistakes. Just like, I don't know if you were in the media when we played them 2 years ago, but the game started 15-3, Wofford. And they are better now than they were then.
Do you think Memphis was good preparation for conference play?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn from it. I have never coached a game there. It is an incredible environment. If I would have known the environment, I wouldn't have taken my daughters. I didn't know. I mean, it is like superb. Great arena, great support, really, really good players, really, really good coaches. And as I've mentioned to the team before we played Memphis and even in post-game, we probably have 14 to 16 more of these. Maybe not all on the road, but in regards to the value of a possession, that's what's coming. And we need to hurry up and figure out this category of things that I'm talking about, regardless of who we're playing, because, like you said, because of what's upon the horizon.
All right, that cover it?
All right, thank you, guys.